10 Most Insane Ancient Chinese Weapons that Redefined Warfare. These legendary weapons from China's turbulent history weren't just tools of war, they were masterpieces of ingenuity, physics, and pure battlefield psychology. From rapid-fire death machines to exotic close-combat nightmares, ancient Chinese armorers and martial artists created devices that turned ordinary soldiers into force multipliers and monks into lethal guardians. Here are some of the most fascinating, bizarre, and terrifying weapons that emerged from the warring states: Temps, Song, Ming, and beyond. Each one tells a story of innovation born from constant conflict. Jujnu, the repeating crossbow, invented during the Warring States period and later refined by the brilliant strategist Zhu Xiliang. This semi-automatic crossbow was the ancient world's answer to a machine gun. A top-mounted wooden magazine held up to 10 to 12 short bolts. With a simple push-pull of the lever, the weapon automatically loaded, cocked, and fired. A well-trained soldier could loose volleys of bolts in seconds, creating a continuous hail of projectiles that suppressed enemy advances. The bolts themselves were lighter than traditional arrows, so Chinese troops often tipped them with poison to ensure every hit counted. It wasn't about one-shot kills, it was about overwhelming volume and relentless pressure that broke enemy morale before they could close the distance. Hook swords, the twin dragons, wielded in pairs, these striking weapons look like something out of a martial arts fantasy. Long, curved blades with pronounced hooks at the tips and crescent-shaped guards near the hilt gave practitioners incredible versatility. The hooks could snag an opponent's sword, trap a spear shaft, or even hook around an enemy's ankle to yank them off their feet. The blunt pommels doubled as stabbing weapons in ultra-close quarters, while the most skilled users could link the two swords together by their hooks and swing one like a deadly chain flail, suddenly doubling their reach. Never standard military issue. They became the signature weapon of elite martial artists who turned every duel into a deadly dance of redirection and control. Wolf brush, Langshan, the bamboo nightmare. During the Ming Dynasty, General Qi Jishuang needed a way to neutralize the terrifying sword skills of Japanese Woko pirates raiding the coast. His solution was the wolf brush, a tall poler made from a thick bamboo stalk with multiple sharpened branches, reinforced with iron spikes, resembling a wild, bristling shrub. Any attacker trying to parry or dodge one spike would simply drive themselves deeper into the others. It created an impenetrable defensive thicket that tangled limbs, snagged weapons, and kept enemies at a fatal distance while allied spearmen struck from behind the screen. Brutal, cheap to produce, and devastatingly effective against superior individual swordsmanship. Meteorhammer, the Whirling Death, a simple yet terrifying weapon. One or two heavy iron weights attached to long ropes or chains. In motion, it became a spinning blur of unstoppable momentum. Masters could strike from over 15 feet away at unpredictable angles, wrapping the chain around shields, legs, or necks to pull enemies off balance or deliver bone-crushing impacts. Unlike rigid weapons, the Meteor Hammer's flexible reach let it bypass defenses and hit hidden targets. But it demanded godlike coordination, stop the motion for even a moment, and the weapon could easily turn against its owner. It was as much a display of mastery as it was a tool of war. Fire arrow, the first rocket. Long before modern rocketry, Song Dynasty engineers lashed gunpowder-filled paper tubes to arrows. Ignited just before launch, the burning powder provided extra thrust, dramatically increasing range, while leaving a blazing trail of sparks and smoke. The psychological terror on cavalry horses was often more valuable than the physical damage. Entire volleys of these screaming, fiery projectiles could shatter formations and rout charges before they even began. They represented the first successful marriage of traditional archery and explosive chemistry. Deer, horn, nibus. Deer, antler, blades. Blade. These exotic weapons consist of two intersecting steel crescents forming 4 deadly points, resembling deer antlers. Favored by Begazang practitioners, they excel in close-quarters chaos. One knife could trap and hook an opponent's blade, while the other struck vital areas. With no traditional hilt, they were nearly impossible to disarm. The circular footwork of Bagua, combined with the knives, allowed fighters to slip inside the reach of longer weapons, turning a spear or sword's greatest advantage into a fatal liability. Ime piercers, the spinning needles. Originating from the misty Mi Mountains, these slender double-pointed rods featured a central ring that slipped over the middle finger, allowing them to spin like deadly propellers. Lightweight and easily concealed, they were perfect for riverside ambushes or underwater combat, where heavier blades became useless. Spinning created a defensive whirlwind while enabling lightning-fast switches between thrust and slash. Masters used them to target pressure points and joints with surgical precision. Death by 1,000 cuts, delivered at blinding speed. Fire lance, the ancestor of the gun. This revolutionary weapon bridged the gap between cold steel and firearms. A bamboo or metal tube packed with gunpowder and shrapnel was mounted on a long pole. Before the spear tip engaged, the user ignited the tube, unleashing a short trench blast of flame, sparks, and flying debris that blinded, burned, and panicked the enemy. It was a one-shot psychological terror weapon that disrupted charges and created openings for follow-up strikes. As the tubes grew stronger and spearheads disappeared, the fire lance evolved directly into hand cannons and eventually modern guns. Monk's spade, the merciful executioner. Originally a practical tool carried by traveling Buddhist monks to bury the dead in clear paths, this polearm features a broad spade blade on one end and a crescent moon blade on the other. In combat, the spade parried and thrust while the crescent hooked necks or limbs. It perfectly embodied the monk's dual role, a tool of compassion on the road and a formidable defender against bandits. Shaolin and other monastic warriors turned this humble implement into a symbol of righteous protection. Wind and fire wheels, the bladed rings, large metal rings about a foot in diameter with protruding blades, and a central grip. These weapons are strongly associated with legendary figures but were very real in martial training. Lucid empires, they excelled at deflecting spears and long weapons through circular motions. A skilled fighter could slash at close range, trap enemy blades, or control the immediate space around them like a spinning barrier of death. Their complexity made them rare, but in the hands of a master they turned offense into a whirlwind of offense. 9-section whip, the hidden serpent. Multiple metal segments connected by rings, ending in a weighted, pointed tip. This flexible weapon could be coiled around the waist or hidden in a sleeve. Swung at high speed, it wrapped around enemy weapons, bypassed shields, and delivered crushing blows from impossible angles. The weighted end generated enormous force, yet the user had to keep it in constant motion or risk self-injury. It was the perfect weapon for bodyguards, escorts, and anyone who needed lethal power in a concealable package. Flying claw, the grappling terror. A metal hand with articulated, sharpened fingers attached to a long rope or chain. Primarily a siege tool for climbing walls, it became a nightmare in open battle. Thrown with precision, it could snag shields, armor, or clothing, allowing the user to yank enemies off horses or drag them out of formation. The psychological impact of suddenly being pulled into enemy lines by an iron claw was immense. Specialized scout units prized its versatility for both infiltration and disruption. These weapons showcase the incredible creativity of ancient Chinese military thinkers. They combined engineering brilliance, deep understanding of physics, and profound knowledge of human psychology to overcome superior numbers, better armor, or more skilled individual fighters. Many of these designs influenced later military technology worldwide, while others remain alive today in traditional martial arts schools. Their legacy reminds us that innovation on the battlefield has always been driven by necessity and a touch of deadly genius. Which of these legendary weapons fascinates you most? Let me know in the comments, and maybe we'll dive deeper into one in a future video.